Hi, my name is Nico Hough. I am here to talk to you about quarantine poetry. For those who do not know me, I am a doctor of divinity and an art critic and an occasional poet, though I'm not very accomplished at any of those things. There's no success like failure. I am also a co producer and copywriter for Miami On Site, which has been a great privilege, and I think it's worthwhile to talk about poetry right now. Writing poetry can teach us very much about the moment we're in, or at the very least, about our place within that moment. Poetry gives the writer an opportunity to reclaim something particular to themselves, especially as the world goes deeper into consolidation and monotony and over policing and now, mandatory isolation and global lockdown. So here is your poetry prompt. I think you should write a poem about what it feels like to be you alive right now. You don't need to write about love or anything bigger than the room that you are in, hiding from this virus. Um, don't overwork it. You are a genius all of the time. First thought is best thought. And, you might be disappointed, which is a good thing because then you can write another poem and then another. Disappointment is a very important feature to writing poetry in my experience. I have been writing a poem a day as part of my quarantine diary, and I will read those now and then follow it up with a bit of unqualified advice. Thursday, April 2nd. It's less a peak than a mountain range. Today returned rare prestige, allowance to a FedEx that only permitted 10 for a gilded frame from Georgia. Like I made it on the guest list, returned me to the fact the world is made of bodies. Rumors declare cocaine in the drinking water, particles which glide towards collective from something as private as yourself. This surgical mask is not pictured in my license photo. I expected better optics from Armageddon. I never imagined so many sweatpants. Each alert alters the contours, less a short V than a long U, less a harsh winter than a silent spring. The threshold for constituting miracles lowers like a bomb, a flattened curve, future trends and discretionary aesthetic spending. These surgical gloves are not pictured in the fingerprint registry, further proof that the old world is dead, not dying. Those people at the door cannot gain access until I make my exit, hoping our bodies survive this and ourselves do not. Monday, April 6th. The Unsung Dead. FOMO. Scooters, rental bikes, and other micromobility solutions. Financial security. Hookah bars. Peace of mind. Sports-related escapism. Air travel. Musical theater. Chilling with the boys. Civil liberties. The insufferable Miami greeting of pressing your cheek against the cheek of another person, kissing the air near their earlobe while they do the same to you, with the occasional expectation of performing this on both sides, though the exact rules of this tradition are arcane and unknowable. Spa packages. Tuesday, April 7th. Zooming towards new normalcy from interiors, covering our faces to get air. A Russian nesting doll of constriction in the outline of a state. My friend is finishing her novel about finding love in a world that doesn't exist anymore. We must find it in the negative space now. I didn't have the nerve to tell her. Like someone maxed out the contrast settings on the film, like unmoored ships in the bay beyond the art museum, lonely as Americans sliding over glassy water. They must be low on crab and cold cuts, flying beneath their tax shelter flags. When civilians had access to the sculpture garden, we admired a work called Chaos, a minimalist rendering of structure in decline, latticed cubes stacked with broken angles. Everywhere is smothered in metaphor, drifting towards the coastline of the unreal real. I am waving at the passengers, at the prisoners, from a distance too great to be seen. So those are three. They're poems I just kind of started and finished, which I think is the spirit of this. So I'm going to give, like I said, a little bit of totally unsolicited and unqualified advice now. The first is that everything, technically speaking, is an act of history. Right now, no matter what you are doing, you are here, and this is happening. So remember that when you are writing. The second is that poetry has nothing to do with productivity. It is the opposite of doing work. You are just expressing for the sake of expressing, or reading for the sake of expanding your own internal experience. So it's the opposite of necessary, which is what makes it a great way to celebrate this kind of liminal sleep mode that everything is in right now. It gives you permission to experiment. So the only way you can truly fail as a writer of poetry is by not writing poetry. So, kill the manager in your head. This has nothing to do with being good or bad. It has to do with singing your own song. So, treat language materially, stretch it, turn it into something new. Just bend the words like a spoon, and you don't need to rhyme. You don't need not to. There are no rules. And if you think your poem might be a failure by your own standards, try to make it the most interesting failure that you can. You owe that to yourself. Tip number 3 is read poetry. I mean, some of it's really good. And it will help you find what you like and what you don't. And tip number 4, and this one is very important. If you are over 25, do not read them your poetry until you have been dating for at least a month, maybe a couple years. Trust me. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. The wheels of history are turning, and someday, when you are a different person living in a different world, you might be thankful that you wrote it all down. You can find me on Instagram at Hough, and if you want someone to read your quarantine poems and give feedback, or just read them and remain silent, feel free to slide into those DMs. Thank you so much.